All right, so we are just at the end of March, and with the NFL draft being next month, it's the time of year to really kind of think about what each NFL team is going to do in the draft. And for the Chicago Bears, it's a huge year draft wise. What the Bears do in the draft is going to give a real idea as to the psyche of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy right now, and kind of where we are as an organization, and what we're going to do moving forward. So what I want to do in this video is give a quick ranking in terms of what I would like to see the Bears do, right? So there's four different position groups that we're going to talk about here: the quarterback, the cornerback, the offensive line, and the wide receiver. The Bears are taking one of those positions in the first round. If the Bears took a different position in the first round, I'd be fucking shocked. Okay, so what I want to do is just a quick ranking in terms of what I would like to see the Bears do. Let's get straight into it, right? My first pick, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, because while I do like Andy Dalton, and I think the Andy Dalton signing was a good signing, my number one option, and what I would love to see the Bears do if it's possible, is to trade up and draft a QB. Absolutely. Again, if you go listen to my last video, I love the Andy Dalton signing, lads. I think if you're not getting Russell Wilson, I think he's a great plan B. But make no mistake about it, while I do like Andy Dalton, we don't have a long-term solution at quarterback at all. It's a 1-year, $10 million deal. The most important thing in all of football is having a long-term solution at QB. That's something the Bears have never had in my life, and long before I was born, they didn't even have. It's the blinking red light of the Chicago Bears organization is getting a long-term solution at QB. That's 1,000%, still the most important thing. So it makes so much sense to me to trade up, draft a QB, and sit them behind someone like Andy Dalton for the year. Now, it does, drafting a QB and sitting them behind Andy Dalton for a year, does that make the Bears better next year? Maybe not. But lads, to be honest with you, I don't give a fuck if there's some stud lineman that's going to help us next year, if 3 or 4 years down the line we're still signing people like Andy Dalton for a year-long contract, right? We need long-term stability. We need a long-term answer at that quarterback position. So absolutely, trading up, drafting a QB, sitting them behind a guy like Andy Dalton makes complete sense. The problem with this is the Bears are sitting at number 20 right now. And I'm looking at the 2021 NFL draft order right now. And the Niners trading up to number 3 kind of fucks us, because the Niners are taking a quarterback at number 3. I have no doubt about it. The Niners aren't trading up trading up to number 3 to get a fucking receiver, right? They're getting a quarterback. So, and the Jets are a bit of a wild card. Who knows what the Jets are going to do? But looking at this draft order right now, more than likely, the first 3 picks, the Jags, the Jets, and the Niners, that's 3 quarterbacks gone. There's 5 quarterbacks that are projected to be first-round quarterbacks, right? You got Trevor Lawrence, you got Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. 3 of those guys are probably going to be gone within the first 3 picks. Okay? Teams that are still above the Bears right now that could possibly take a quarterback: the Falcons. I don't think the Falcons are going to take a quarterback, but they could. Carolina at 8. I would be very surprised if they didn't take a quarterback. Denver at 9 are hot and heavy to take a quarterback. New England at 15 could definitely take a quarterback. Even Washington, who are still a spot above us at 19, they could absolutely take a quarterback. You got so much teams that could take quarterbacks above us. We know that there's quarterback's not going to drop to us at 20, of course. The question here is, how high can the Bears actually trade up, right? Because, can the Bears trade up and get into the top 10? I don't know, again, you've got 3 of the 5 quarterbacks probably going to be gone within the first 3 picks, and then if you have the Falcons, you have the Panthers, the Broncos. These teams could all take quarterbacks. Really, it only makes sense if the Bears can possibly trade up to that number 9 spot, maybe, where Denver is right now. If you can trade up there, maybe you hope the Falcons don't take a QB, and then you can take the 5th quarterback off the board then at 9. But that's a lot of what ifs, man. That's a lot of what ifs. So I don't know. I don't know how it would work. I don't know what spot we'd have to trade up to in order to be able to do this. What would we have to give up to trade up to a spot where we'd be able to get a quarterback? I don't know, but man, you know, it doesn't, on paper now, it's going to be hard for the Bears to trade up to a position, where we'd be able to get a quarterback. But it is possible, and I think if it's doable, I think trading up to draft a quarterback would be my number one option. Look, I'm not saying we're getting Patrick Mahomes, but look at what he did sitting behind Alex Smith for a year. There's a lot of great things that can come out of getting a talented rookie quarterback and sitting behind a competent starter like Andy Dalton for a year. And maybe you have your long-term solution then. So 100% the most logical and the best fit for the Bears moving forward is to draft a QB at with our first round pick. The problem with it is I don't know how high we'd have to trade up, and I don't know if we would actually be able to trade up to a position where we get one. But that is definitely my number one pick, is to get a quarterback. If the quarterback's not there, my second option here, I'm going to do a tie. I know it's boring, but I honestly can't decide. Look, if the quarterback's not there, I think the next best thing is to get an offensive lineman or a cornerback. Whichever is better, okay? Every team has scouts that watch countless hours of college football every year. Whatever, the Bears scouts, if you think there's a stud cornerback on the board or you think there's a stud lineman, whichever one you have higher on your rankings, you take, okay? I couldn't decide between these two position groups because there's just so much need at both position groups. Offensive line clearly is a need. If for anyone who watched the Bears last year, the offensive line was on their ass for half of the games. I would fucking love a solid tackle to come in and actually, be a Bear for the next 5-10 years. So having an improved offensive line would obviously be amazing, and that's definitely a need. But at the same time, the cornerback position is clearly a hole in the team that we have now. Because of this offseason, the offseason we've had, cutting Buster Skrine and Kyle Fuller, that's two cornerbacks that you've cut. I know we've brought in Desmond Trufant, but really as a team, you want three solid cornerbacks. We have Jalen Johnson and Desmond Trufant, fine. There's a drop-off then to, Duke Shelley and guys like that. There's a clear hole in the team in terms of having those three solid cornerbacks. So if there's a cornerback that you really like in the first round, bringing them in, could absolutely bolster that position group, and then we don't have to worry about the cornerbacks. But right now, we do have to worry about the cornerbacks because there's clearly a hole there because of losing, Kyle Fuller, obviously, and then, Buster Skrine to a lesser degree. But again, having that nickel cornerback is really important. So the cornerback position is of utmost importance as well, as well as the offensive line. So I think, offensive line and cornerback, if you can't get the quarterback, if you can go for cornerback or the offensive line, that makes a lot of sense there. Third, in my mind, and kind of bottom of the list in terms of, the main positions that we're talking about, is the receiver. Look, would I hate getting a wide receiver? Not necessarily, but I wouldn't. It wouldn't make sense to me to get a receiver over the quarterback, the cornerback, or the offensive line positions. Look, the Bears receivers are better than people believe. As a skill position group, we're actually pretty fucking good. Having Dave Montgomery back there, Allen Robinson, clear number one. Darnell Mooney going into a second year where you can expect big things out of him, taking the lids off defenses a couple plays a game. We have multiple tight ends there. Like, the skill position players are not that bad. Sure, would it be nice to have another flashy weapon out there? Yeah, but in terms of needs, it just does not trump the need for the quarterback, the cornerback, or the offensive line. It just doesn't. So, to me, I would not go for a wide receiver in the first round. Later on in the draft, the later rounds of the draft, sure. Like, if we could get another Darnell Mooney, that would be amazing. What was Darnell Mooney, like a 5th or 6th round draft pick last year? if you want to get someone like, if you want to go for someone like that, absolutely get some depth at the receiver position, throughout the draft. That's fine. But, first round pick, getting a shiny new wide receiver is just not as important as sorting out the other, positions. So the wide receiver would kind of be the third, the third rung here, and the kind of third ranked need, in my opinion, going into the draft this year.